Welcome back. I hope you're enjoying your course so far. Now we've had an opportunity to look at the foundations of ethics and the theories that are out there as ethics develop. And I'm sure you realize now that ethics have a whole lot of shades of gray. So it's maybe not as easy as we thought it was as we moved into the course in the beginning. And as we move forward now, we're going to be looking at corporations and how ethics apply in business and how ethics apply to corporations. Because remember, corporations are independent entities, but they're not people. So it's going to get a little bit more complicated again as we move into these chapters, looking at corporations and social responsibility. So what is a corporation? A corporation is an entity of its own that is established and can exist past the lifespan of its owners. The owners of a corporation typically have limited liability, and a corporation on its own, in and of its own, has its own rights and responsibilities. In the 19th century, the rules for corporations changed. Prior to that, they were only allowed for public service. And in the early 19th century, the government decided that we would open corporations up for general population businesses. So this made a big impact on businesses, as many businesses would invest into the idea of a corporation in order to protect their own individual persons, and so they could have a limited responsibilities within that corporation, which is what leads to some sticky things in regards to ethics as we move forward into that. And it leads us to some very important questions, such as, do corporations have social responsibility? We can turn around, we've looked in our discussion questions at people and their ethical responsibilities, but do corporations have ethical responsibilities? Because they're not people. And do they have social responsibility? Is a corporation responsible for making better people, making better communities, making better citizens? So those are some important questions we'll be pondering in these chapters. We're also going to be looking at things like, how can corporations be punished if they're not ethical, if they don't make responsible choices? And that can be a challenge in and of itself. We can't put a corporation in jail. We could hold its members responsible, but then that leads to yet another question. To what degree can we hold the members of a corporation responsible for the actions of a corporation? After all, corporations are generally not run by just one person, so multiple people would be involved in these decision-making processes. Should you be responsible for a decision that your boss has made, that you may or may not have had any control over? So these lead to some very interesting and complex questions for us to review in this chapter. And it reminds me of a saying. There's a saying that says, no one snowflake ever feels that they're responsible for an avalanche. So, that's what we're looking at here when we're looking at social responsibility. It's so easy for all of those members to go, hey, it wasn't me, I didn't do it. Yet the entity itself may be responsible for a bigger picture or something that could have happened. And when we're looking at things like that, we're going to be looking at major catastrophes in these next couple chapters, like oil spills. And we're going to be looking at the differences between how corporations handle major events. Your book will give you an example of the Tylenol scandal from many years ago, and how Tylenol and Johnson & Johnson handled that and what the outcomes were, versus things like we're seeing in the automotive factories now, when we're looking at faulty cars and the potential to cause death or serious harm to people, and how they're handling those situations, and how we as a community and how we as a population accept and we treat those corporations as a result of that. And as we look at that, we're also going to be looking at three primary theories with regards to social responsibility in businesses. One of those actually stems from Adam Smith. You'll be reading about that, and he's going to talk to you about the invisible hand. That theory basically states that if corporations are left alone, that we should be hands-off with regards to the government. And if corporations were left on their own, they will make the right choices, and they will commit to their communities, and they will take care of the community and the people, and they will step up to the role of social responsibility. And the reason that they don't do that is because the government is involved. A second theory basically says that that doesn't work, that first theory doesn't work, because businesses are by nature competitive in nature, and that they will be so busy competing with each other to get the upper hand that they will not be taking care of society, and they will say that that's somebody else's job. And so because of that, there could be problems leaving corporations responsible for its communities. And the third theory is kind of a blend of both of them. It basically says corporations might be involved in trying to help our communities, but realistically, they're not equipped to deal with it. They don't have the expertise, they don't have the skills, and they should not be in charge of taking care of our communities and things like that. So better served to be taxed and allow those tax dollars to be determined how they're going to work in a community by the government. So 3 different theories. Again, not one's right or one's wrong. They're all just different, but important for us to understand those different perspectives. So I hope you enjoyed this chapter. Do take some time to check out some of the other resources I put in the resource tab. I put some fun videos and some thought-provoking videos in there. They're short clips regarding social responsibility, and a couple comparison contrast of some of the theories that might help you prepare for the exam, which is right around the corner. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week.